12 months ago, I stocked my first 37 fish into the small lake I've been building throughout 2023. In the months leading up to those fish going in, it required digging, planting.
These are the Rolls Royce of waders.
Dyeing the lake blue, saving it from an algae bloom, and much more, to eventually get us to the point where I could stock my first
expensive fish
into the lake. And in February, I added a further 20 carts, take the total up to 57. All was going great, but that's when a lot of my problems started to begin. As spring on the fishery turned into summer, I began to notice an issue. This became more and more clear. The lake was very obviously leaking.
Oh my God.
With all of my
expensive fish
inside. Now the question was the lake leaking from right down in the bottom, in the centre, on the bottom of the lake bed? Or was it leaking from somewhere along one of the sides? And if so, which side was it leaking from? With every passing week, the issue was getting worse and worse. When we were walking through my mum's garden here, which is on the southern edge of the lake, all of this ground around her pond and up to the back of the house was absolutely soaking. Now this normally isn't even the case, and it was still wet even when the weather was completely dry. And when we dug the trench for the power cable to be connected from the lodge to the pole, something happened. It filled up really quickly with blue lake water. We concluded that Kev's pool must have been leaking through this bank underneath the road behind me because of the amount of water that was hitting the French drain system that we originally installed right at the beginning of the project. And then it was seeping out of that through Mum's garden, making it soaking wet. And that is why when we dug that trench, that also filled with water. And it was likely caused by a land drain not being removed properly along this bank, despite trying to get every single one of them during the original build. That first builder came back and tried to do some patchwork by digging up this road for the first time and trying to find signs of a leak. He actually found a couple of land drains, blocked them up, but it did nothing to sort out the issue. But then I found this incredible human behind me called Kevin, who came in and was my saviour. Digging a series of test holes, Kevin filled them with blue dye to try and see if it made it back into Kev's pool, showing us where the leak would be. And hey presto, we found it. Water had been pouring out of a land drain that we discovered was still exposed in the lakes for months, completely undetected. However, using Surfshark, you can be protected when browsing online. Now, once we'd found that exposed land drain, I had to, if you remember, go and get into some dashing trunks and began the process of trying to block it up. Everyone seemed to really enjoy me in those trunks. And you wouldn't want to miss out on that content, just like I don't like missing out on my F1. So using Surfshark, you can access its VPN and change to any one of the 100 countries across the world and 3,200 servers to make sure that you never miss your favourite content. Now, after I was in the lake around about here, blocking up that land drain, Kevin dug a ginormous trench along this bank behind me here and added a layer of clay bentonite matting. It kind of went down and underneath the bottom of the lake. On top of that, at every point that we discovered along this bank, roughly 8-metre intervals, land drains, we were then going that additional mile on concreting them. We then compacted all the clay back into that hole and we had an impassable security barrier, making sure that this side of the lake could no longer leak. So what we did here was create basically an impassable barrier, just like what Surfshark does for you, meaning there's no risk of data leaks. Surfshark protects and encrypts your data at super fast speeds, much faster than we were able to fix that leak. Oh! I wish it was that fast. Now, finding, detecting and fixing this leak along this bank behind me must have been one of the most stressful parts. In fact, it was the most stressful part of building this entire fishery from the ground up from scratch, even more so than the planning permission and every other challenge we faced. What it shows is the need to go the extra mile with anything that you're doing, whether it be on the lake or securely online. So using my link, surfshark.com/Ben Fowler, which is in the description and is also the pinned comment on the video, you can access Surfshark with an extra 4 months at an unbeatable price. And it really is cheap as chips. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, there is literally no risk. So just head over and hit that link in the description to make sure you're protected and you're not going to have a leak. So after successfully fixing that leak, the next project that we had to tackle was the banks. Using a special anti-erosion matting, Kevin re-sculptured the banks around the lake, making them look exactly how I wanted them to from the start. And I tried my best to get involved as much as possible. The first grass actually only started to come through just a couple of weeks after we'd put in the first anti-erosion matting. I couldn't believe how fast it was growing. And now take a look at the end of the year and look how green my luscious new bank is all the way down to the edge of the water. We've still got a little bit of topsoil to put on this top bit, so don't look there. However, this before and the other side and the other side and the other side looked horrendous. And now it's green. Now, alongside these jobs, we'd also been busy getting the lodge finished. Vince and Dan got on with getting all the windows fitted, the doors, insulating the lodge, fitting the floor, cladding it internally, and we finally finished it off by getting all the first and second fixes of electrics done, painting, the kitchen and the bathroom fitted. Whilst this was happening, Kevin turned his attention to the peg area, and I did some fantastic whackering work. I then attempted to help Kevin lay some paving slabs, which went well.
It comes off now, it's going to break my toe.
It won't come off.
And now all of that looks like this. Okay, granted, we've got to bring the stones just up here and here, but minor things. All the porcelain from Pavestone UK Limited is now down. The whole thing has been grouted. Kevin actually came back recently to complete some of that grouting, and he also fitted the upstands, which are along here, to finish off the bottom part of that lodge. The peg is finally looking fantastic, and just like those pegs that I used to fish on at Linear Fisheries when I was a kid, with the water, which I have mentioned before, but I'm very happy about my water, now comes right below this sleeper at the front of the swim, which is just like carpy and that, innit? So this whole area took so many tons of material, but is finally pretty much completed, with the hot tub also sat on its plinth over there. But way back in the summer, when all of this was being completed, we were waiting for something to happen that was slightly overdue. But eventually, my
Expensive fish.
got down and dirty, and spawning commenced. That's right, back in the summer, my fish began to spawn for the first time, since they were all stocked into Kev's pool. And I was super worried that we were going to end up losing some of those fish, so I had to take some extra precautions. But luckily, my landscaper Kevin has a degree in fishery management.
Big fish.
Clearly unlike me, and he instructed myself and Child Labour Services to install a brush into the lake. This is one of the first things that we had to do, right about there. This brush would act as a substrate for the carp to lay their eggs. The idea is that we wanted to catch as many of the eggs the fish were laying as possible, as we had no predators in the lake at the time that were able to eat them up, and I didn't want to be riddled with millions of little fish. The brushes would capture these eggs if the carp used them to spawn onto, and we'd be able to remove them, hopefully getting rid of hundreds of thousands of little eggs. However, despite our best efforts, the brushes didn't remove all the fish. And soon after, Kevin stood just down here, looked into the water and spotted the first of hundreds of thousands of little carp. These tiny little fish soon became bigger and bigger, and I was starting to see huge shoals of tiny little fish tearing around Kev's pool. Despite a heron working extremely hard to eradicate as many of these fish as possible, there was simply still too many. I had to do something. Yes, I managed to legally get hold of some perch. These are a small but very predacious little fish, and I was hoping that they would clear up as many of these little carp in as short a time frame as possible. Now trust me, I'm aware that 10 perch are not going to make a huge dent in the lots of little carp that are currently in that lake, but they must have been working really hard, and I'm currently, now it's winter time and a lot of fish are being harvested, working hard to get my hands on a load more perch. If you know any great suppliers, let me know, it's really hard, and also some small jack pike to go into the lake. So after my fish had finished their spawning and we'd got all of that other stuff sorted, a few of my oldest fishing pals started to make their way to Kev's pool, basically forcing themselves through the gates. My friend Tom Maker started off with the first session, obviously bagging up on many of the residents of Kev's pool with ease. But it was my friend Finley Todd Hunter, channel name Fishing with Finn, that came here and absolutely decimated the lake a few months ago, catching 10 of the biggest residents that are actually in Kev's pool. I think he might have even had more of that, to be honest. He was fishing from the swim and casting over to a spot on the other side of Kev's pool where he was lowering his rigs in, and Finn carved it up. He fished all the way through the night, all the time, and he even got Tom to come down just so that he could rub his captures in his face, as well as making it to Swindon for an all-important GURTWINGS. Finn's session really was absolute perfection and made me feel a sense of achievement, that it was nearly all done. The point of opening is really getting closer and closer. So you're probably wondering, what exactly do I need to do to get Kev's pool open now? Surely it's all ready to go. Well, let me explain. Well, over the last few weeks, Kevin has come back and has been working super hard to get this road completed, because we obviously had to dig it up when we had all those leaks along this bank here. So God knows how many times this road has been redug up, put back together, dug up again. So I'm hoping, for the love of Christ, that this is the final time. So Kevin has been on his machine and he started off with putting down a base layer of shingle. He used a roller to make sure it was as compact as it could possibly be, tidied all the edges up with his digger, and finally finished it off with about 100 tons, I believe, of gravel that came in on lorries being delivered that he spread over this area. It now looks literally 100 times better, so I couldn't be more pleased. We even had some stone left over to do some other projects around the rest of our property. Now, come with me. Welcome to the lodge. Now, this is how it is as of I think it's the 12th of December today. 13th. It is not yet done and it still needs to be furnished. Let me just turn the lights on for you so you can actually see what it's like. However, this is the current state of the lodge. All the cladding is on. Basically, it's completely ready to just be furnished, but we had an absolute nightmare over the last 6 months with getting the power connected at the back of the lodge. SSE caused us an absolute nightmare over fitting a meter and isolation switch to this box. We have a power cable coming from a pole over there up to here, but actually getting them to make that connection, we had so many issues from people not turning up, applications suddenly vanishing so there was no jobs in the system to be done, and all in all, it took months for this simple job to actually happen and be completed, to the point where the power got switched on in there. So yes, you can see that in here there's not much more to do. We're actually going to be bringing you a full video in January, finishing off the lodge and everything that went into the final steps of this. So this year has simply been amazing. Unbelievably difficult at times. We have a leak. Full of unexpected, not a digger, it's a knocker, and expected moments. So the fish in my lake are spawning. And I'm convinced that yes, this project could have cost a lot less money. I really do wish it did. But I'm going to look at it as a complete learning curve. The amount that we learned from doing this project, if we ever did another one like it again, I'm sure it would cost half as much, and we had some amazing memories, funny moments, and lots of problem solving along the way. The amazing amount of laughs.
Oh, it's not quite come through to me. Now it's come through to my balls. Yeah, there we go.
Jokes. Sheer incompetence. And much more have made my venue feel super special to me. Now, for all of the anglers that have been following this since the start, through mower deliveries and all sorts of stuff on the Mark II channel, as well as the project that has been going on behind me, I have a little gift for you that hopefully someone really deserving will win, which is 48 hours on Kev's pool in the lodge between the start of January and April, where I'm kind of looking to start taking bookings from. So you can get here before anybody else. To do so, all that I ask is you hit the thumbs up button on this video, hit the subscribe button, and drop the little fishing emoji in the comments. And we will be picking a winner live on Instagram on the 20th of December. That's next Friday at 7 p.m. UK time. So on the Fowler Fisheries Instagram page, I will go live and pick a winner from those comments at 7 p.m. UK time. But if you've enjoyed this video anyway, please hit that thumbs up button. Give us a subscribe as a Christmas present for the entire year of bringing content on this lake, and me and the rest of my team making complete fools of ourselves, mostly me, at times. So thank you for following along, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will see you again in the new year. Ciao! What was was your favourite part of the project this year, do you think?
Getting paid and going home.
Right.